Hey, I want to welcome everybody to the Confluence Podcast. My name is Luke Geraty. I'm with my friend Matt Squillante, and we are two guides for Confluence Outfitters. And we're going to have a good conversation today about a number of topics related to spring fly fishing, still waters, freestones, tailwaters, toilet bowls. What? I don't know.
I don't know where that came from.
I'm just thinking. Sometimes
Off the cuff?
there's a lot of water. You might have to go just cast. Swimming pools, hot tubs.
Yeah. They tend to be a little less productive.
Sometimes.
But
Depends.
Yeah.
Depends on
what you're looking for.
If you stock them properly. Yeah. So where do you want to start? So it is the end of March. We're moving into April. And April and May. So March, April, and May is oftentimes our spring fishing. We've had a kind of a pretty heavy water spring. This March has been tough because the lower Sac has gone from it was 6,000 up to 15 to 17 to 6 to it's kind of been all over the place.
Yeah. Color's
been tough. The Trinity, we haven't been able to fish for a while. We could have.
Yeah.
Wanted to survive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, safety sort of dictated.
Yeah, and, unfortunately. I was pretty bummed about that. But I guess, the one, I was talking to Randy, one of our other guides the other day.
Yeah.
And just about how, in some ways it's been really good for the steelhead, though. Mm-hmm. Because it's been a kind of a nice respite. They haven't had, a bunch of dorks out there trying to catch them the whole time. For us being those dorks.
Yeah, of course.
Let's start with, why don't we start talking about
Stillwater? You want to talk about Stillwater?
No, let's do that one last. Let's start with some tailwaters.
Okay, some tailwaters. So that would be the lower Sac, the feather, and the Yuba.
Okay.
The lower Sac being the largest of them. We'll start with the lower Sac.
The bread and butter.
The bread and butter.
Let's go with the standard, probably one of the most popular fly fishing rivers in Northern California.
Yep.
Most people who start fly fishing in Northern California, generally there's a story about, I floated the lower Sac once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess one thing, the top section closes after this.
April 1st.
Yeah, April 1st is it's no longer open.
Yep.
So that's coming up. So you won't be able to float under the world famous Sundial Bridge. But it's not very much river that's closed actually, because right at 44, right in Redding, it opens up from there below. So
yeah, let's just touch briefly on why that closure is in place.
Yeah, why don't you tell us? I've heard a lot of different reasons why.
So we've got spawning salmon up there.
Yep.
Right, and just in general, salmon populations haven't been great.
Yeah.
And we have a specific run of salmon up there that the state's trying to protect because their numbers are so diminished. So,
like, they know how many salmon there are, and they have a name for all of them, basically.
Yeah, pretty. Hey, that's George.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
So, in an effort to help those fish spawn, we don't fish that. It's the law. It's not a by choice thing per se. It's instituted.
Nobody legally
fishes up there. But it's an effort to help the fish.
Yeah. And probably good for the trout too.
Probably good for the trout.
Yeah, there are a lot of trout that will be spawning on the reds up there. Reds being salmon nests. So yeah, it's actually not a bad thing. And actually it generally feels like a really good thing because it gives all those fish, because that section of the river gets fished pretty hard at certain times of the year. So it gives those fish a break. And, when we get back in there in August, it's generally like, it feels like they are back to being happy, healthy. They're not super hard.
Not pestered for a couple months.
It does. I mean, when February and March come around, I mean, even in December and January, it can be pretty tough up there sometimes because the fish are like, they know.
Yeah.
They're like,
hey, I've seen that fly before.
Yeah, I've seen all of these flies in these floating circles.
Yeah, exactly.
They're dodging them. So, so that closure goes into effect on the 1st of April, but there's still, 50 miles-ish of river.
Plenty of water.
Yeah, plenty of water. So let's talk a little bit about the lower Sac.
Cool.
Yeah, bug life. Maybe let's start there.
I think one of the prime ones that we look for in a lot of rivers across the state this time of year is your PMDs really start to pop.
Pale morning duns.
Yeah, your pale morning
And there's also PEDs, I've heard from certain bug dorks.
Yeah, that's a different species, and they behave differently.
Yes, but they look similar.
They look similar.
They're around. That's not a PMD, that's a PED. So.
It's actually an interesting bug because they start hatching under... It's not really an interesting bug to Luke.
There's 3 people who care. Keep going. No, I'm just kidding.
The duns start hatching under the water.
Yeah.
So when I looked at it and thought about it a little bit, some of your traditional wet flies would mimic that adult merging through the water because it's already starting to become a dun underwater.
Yeah.
So it's not in its nymphal
and
stage.
the PEDs and the PMDs though do overlap as far as when they're off and off. So the reason why I am teasing you a little bit, but because you are a bug dork, but
I am.
I have noticed though that because I think sometimes they were smaller than the PMDs that were around. Yeah. But it seemed like that would be the time when, if you were indicator fishing, you might take off your weight and actually just free float something smaller, like, really super small, like a size 18, peaches and cream, for example. I have had success like, fishing it like I would a PMD wasn't as successful as a different technique. So being aware of the bug. So PMDs.
Marsh browns.
Yeah, there's a lot of nymph options though for PMDs. Every year, it seems like there's a new PMD nymph that is like the fly, and the previous 2 years won't work as well, and you have to circle them in on the 3rd or 4th year. Yeah. So I'm kind of looking forward to what's going to be the new.
I don't think it's top secret, so I'll
Ginger snap.
I was gonna say, I think you told me ginger snap was a hot fly for a while. For you,
not anymore.
Not anymore. Don't touch that fly.
Yeah, the jigster, the jiggy PMD thing that Mercer makes. There's a lot of strawberries and cream with the pink thread was the new fly. So PMDs. But yeah, there's March Browns. I don't feel like I do quite as well on March Brown nymphs on the Sac myself. But I also feel like I might not fish them quite, as much confidence.
March Brown is another interesting bug, one that starts to hatch underwater, where some of those traditional wet flies, with a pretty big duck quill wing, would kind of mimic that nymph moving through the water, but already starting to come out of its shock, basically.
Yeah, it's larger.
Yeah, and
you can see it.
It's going to be larger.
It's a steak.
Yeah. But so that's another interesting one. But those March Browns, they're really hard to miss. They're pretty good size flies, usually like size 12.
Yeah.
So those can be productive as well. And then
if you're on the river with Matt, he'll be out there. This is my invitation. Look at those. Those are PMDs. And then a couple minutes later, those ones are PEDs. And then a couple seconds later, look at the March Browns. Whereas a lot of people would be like, hey, there's some mayflies. So, just saying. So we got PMDs, March Browns. We also still have some BWOs around. A lot of BWO is pretty standard, like all year long. You could probably get away with throwing the world famous Weiss and likewise other flies like that too. But like maybe the difference being, just basic breakdown is PMDs tend to be tan or like kind of like yellowish almost looking or lighter colored, brown. And the BWOs are oftentimes black or green. You can kind of, but they look real similar because all mayflies, right? They when you hold them next to each other, they got almost the same body, just different colors. Yeah,
there's a lot of variation in color between nymphs, so you can have the same species, of bug on
with a wide variety
on one river, and it's gonna let's just say River A, they're much lighter, maybe more tan. And then on River B, they can be much darker. Or one leans towards green and one leans towards brown. So there is variation.
And also, too, as the season progresses, it seems like the colors of the nymphs that they're eating also change too. Which could be related to the, I don't know, that subspecies or that weeks hatch, so to speak. Because I've noticed with the BWOs, for example, certain times of the year, I'll do really well with like a green, light green, and then that stops, and it's got to be dark, like dark and black.
So,
which might be midget, I don't know, but
there is one of the things that does happen with a lot of nymphs is the closer they get to the point at which they're going to hatch, they actually do darken up, and especially that thorax, the wing pads on the back
get darker.
They get darker, and that is really pronounced with stoneflies. They get pretty dark, just before the whole bug.
So we've talked about PMDs, PEDs, pale morning, pale evening duns. We've talked about blue wing olives, BWOs. Now we're talking about stoneflies, and so like the really popular nymph for us would be the rubber legs. Or there's a whole ton of different types of rubber legs, right? You can get really technical on the way you tie them, where they look like a bug and it's freaky looking, or you can do what I do. Chenille leg. So the stoneflies, it seems like this time of year there's a lot of stoneflies around too. In certain parts of the lower sac, it seems like if I don't have a rubber leg, I mean, there's some parts in the lower sac where I'm not running a rubber legs. I know a lot of other guides do, and a lot of anglers, but I'm like, I just feel like there's better flies for me that I'm more productive on. There's also certain parts of the river where I'm not going to go down that run without at least one rubber legs on, because it's foolish to do that.
That's sort of some of the local knowledge that a client benefits from, as your guide is familiar with different parts of the river and what fish is here. That's one of the things that I like to chat with people about, clients about, that are interested in bugs. That one of the things I had to learn when I came to California from the East Coast, I could fish in a day on the East Coast. I could probably fish 4, 5, 6 hours with the same flies and catch fish. California has a lot of microbiomes within the rivers themselves. So it's not an exaggeration to say that you could move 50 feet or 100 yards, right, downstream or upstream.
Be completely different.
And it's going to be completely different. What's going on there? You could have been really successful for the first couple of hours that you're fishing, right? And then you move, and all of a sudden what was just working, you're thinking like, hey, I'm only 200 feet downstream, right? But especially if the water conditions are
totally different. Well, even the temperature change of like 2 or 3 degrees,
right?
Because I oftentimes think about and I'm not going to say the order that I would make this change, but you might be heavily reliant in one location with stoneflies and caddis, whereas another spot would be a lot of midges and mayflies, just because of the type of water you're
Absolutely.
fishing. So you got mayfly, whether it's the PMDs or the BWOs on the lower sac we're talking about. We also have stoneflies, March Browns mentioned, but also caddis. I mean, there's starting to be a lot more caddis. I've been seeing a fair amount of like, whoa.
I think you've spent more time out there in the evenings too, and had some outstanding. I haven't done as much of that, but I know you have.
There's been times where I'm like, maybe there aren't fish at night, but
maybe they hate caddis.
Well, that's the weird thing, but I mean, I will say the last few times I've been on the caddis, I've seen in the afternoons more on the lower sac, more caddis popping off, and sometimes it was like, oh yeah, the fish are eating caddis. You had to run a bird's nest or a pupa or something like that. We also have the Mother's Day caddis, which I haven't seen any yet. That's that black caddis,
little black one.
I haven't seen any yet, but usually it's around Mother's Day when we start seeing those. But those should start be pretty soon here. So again, black pupas, black the Sylvie. I like the black Sylvie too. But those will be. So I guess the lower sac. What I think the main challenge for us has been the flows. Right, because the river was kind of muddy it's cleared up now. The river is perfect. I mean, now is the time to come.
It's nice and green.
It's time to go. But the flows have changed, and so we generally like to fish it if it's got a day or two with stabilized flows. But we fish it anywhere from, when we were in drought, it was like, 4,000 forever, best ever. Yeah. 3,500. I was like, this is amazing. Yeah, don't change it. Yeah, I was like, the fish only have one spot to
they can't go anywhere else.
Yeah, it was amazing. But we'll fish it. I mean, shoot, I fished it plenty of times when it was in the 15 to 20,000.
Yeah.
So it's not unfishable. In fact, I think that's one of the things we always want to say to clients is like, no, it's totally, we just are going to do a lot longer float.
Yeah, it's a big river, so it can handle higher flows better than a smaller system.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to be faster.
Yeah, and right? we always, the thing, I think at 20,000, there's plenty of soft water to fish. It is not, I remember this is probably 7 years ago when the river, I got jacked up to like 70,000 for like a month, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. My only option at the time was the Trinity, and the Trinity was fine, but it was like, that got a little unfishable for a while. But it was like when it came down to 30,000, I was like, I'm just going. I don't care. And we railed at 30,000. There were 5 spots to fish at the top section of the river, down to like Bonneview. But we caught so many fish, but it was all in the soft water. As soon as we found any structure and there was soft water below it, we did really, really well. And you could back row it and fish it like we do. You didn't have to just get one shot. So I think it really is, the sweet spot on the Sac for me is anywhere from whatever it is at drought, 3,500, 4,000, all the way up to like 15. That's no problems. It's a different river. It's fishable though. And I think, the more that we've been on the river, the more seasons you have under your belt, right? The more you're confident with where you're going to fish. But yeah, I think, so the lower Sac, let's talk about techniques a little bit, because you and I have both been kind of experimenting a lot the last few years about getting beyond just bobber dogging.
Yep.
Right. We'll do that all day long. A lot of our clients are like, hey, let's throw bobbers. They know we can catch fish that way.
Yeah.
But springtime offers opportunities for dry fly.
Absolutely.
And like for real.
Yeah, with, certain windows, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, we're going to go out there and throw dry flies.
It's not 99% of the time we can guarantee.
Right.
But it's a lot more probable.
Yeah, you have these windows, right, where, it becomes much more viable.
Yeah. And I also think, too, like, I feel like for me, I don't know if you feel this way, too, but, like, there's certain spots, like certain riffles, for example, or just certain, places where I feel like, we can throw some dry flies there, and we're going to probably get some eats. Yeah. Even without, like, hatches. There's a few riffles that I've just over the years, I feel like, hey, I can almost guarantee, it's fishing, so there's no guarantees, but we're gonna actually throw for 30 minutes right here.
Yeah, it's one of the things that you really enjoy when you get the opportunity.
Yeah,
and it's definitely very much situational.
Yeah,
like you said,
and it's so great when you blow it, like everybody, like we all blow it. It's like you feel so confident. It's like, I suck too. Just saying, a few times we've done that. But no, the dry fly fishing. And I think a lot of times that is kind of that, for me, what I've noticed on the Sac, I'd say right now it's a later afternoon thing. Like any time from like 11:30, between 11:30 and 3 is kind of like our window we're going to have. As we move into the summer, then it becomes like an evening thing. Yeah.
And you've had a lot more experience out there in the evening than I have.
Yeah.
But you've shared some
it can be
fishing.
Well, it's like any time, right? Like you find the window, you find out when they're eating, and if you're there at the right time, it's like, dude, this is easy.
Yeah. Well,
these fish are dumb.
It's something that often people don't think about when they think lower Sac. They're just they think.
I didn't. My first 5 years, I was like, there are no fish that eat dry flies. I just didn't see it ever, and I'd hear. You'd hear rumblings and whistlings amongst like the OG vet guides, who would just look at you and pinch your cheek and be like, keep thinking that. But I think when we started exploring and getting beyond like your 9 to 5 window or your 7 to 3 or, whatever. Yeah. And also just, I think learning the river has been good with that. But so in addition to dry fly, the tight lining has been pretty fun too.
Yeah, that's something we've been working on the last couple of years, with, pretty pretty good results, especially if people already have some experience with that type of fishing and they enjoy it. Then, you know, it switches up the day a little bit. And I think clients always enjoy that. And
I think I think it's what's cool about it is being able to control the drift a little bit more. And I mean, I think I'd say a large variety of my clients, a large group of them, large percentage of them, I've taught how to do it. So I mean, I think we both would be great with, if you haven't ever done it, come out, let's do it. Like, it is really fun. But the grab is, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, it's a tight line grab.
Yeah,
right?
it's just like,
game on.
Yeah,
immediately.
I bought some specialized rods that are because the lower sack, if you're running like your standard 3-weight, 4-weight even, it's tough. If you get a good fish on, it's going to be like, well, strap in, guys. It's going to be 30 minutes before we get this fish in, But I started running a rod that has no problem landing fish up to 10 pounds. I mean, it's a Diamondback, makes a great 6-weight, and it's great. So, I think we both have our different ways. We've kind of rigged it up, and but what's cool is we can tight line pretty much any depth too, and be in the game. So like we've been able to fish runs that we found out were actually like 20 feet deep. We would like, this isn't 7 feet. So the tight lining's been really fun. Running multiple flies, oftentimes 2-3 flies, tight. And the grabs are absolutely epic. It seems like on some days when it's kind of slow too with the bobber rods, like I found man, it's like we're going to actually end the day on a good day because we changed up tactics. Which is probably true about almost every river, I guess, right?
It just presents the flies differently, really is kind of how I look at it. And, it's not uncommon if I'm doing, let's say, a walking weight on the upper sack. I might have somebody go through with an indicator, right? But, I'm kind of watching what's going on and how we're covering the water, and also looking at the bottom and, knowing that maybe it's a bit variegated, right? And there's little holes or pockets that you might not get, the best presentation to a fish with an indicator, right? So, in that case, I'm very likely to say, hey, let's also, take some drifts through with that tight line rod, because it's just going to show it to the fish differently. I really am a firm believer in that, that just switching your angle a little bit.
For sure.
Right? It looks a little different to them.
Change it up.
And that might be the difference between that fish grabbing it and that fish not grabbing it. I haven't done a lot of it on the lower sack, but I know you and Andrew have, which is you also do some trout spay out there too. Right?
So I do a little bit of trout spay. I want to not anchor anybody I know how to cast, and I have done it. I have clients that will do it, but I mean, we do have Brian Coleman and Randy Heyman are specialists. They do the trouts, or I guess they should say they do our spay camps. They are steelhead gurus when it comes to that. I've been out with Randy. I think the last 2 years I've gone out with Randy several times throughout the year to do some video and then just to fish. And man, I've learned a lot from Randy. And those guys, I mean, I just talked to Randy actually I think 2 weeks ago, that now's the time. So flow dependent. Oh yeah. Spring and fall are 2 really good times to go. I think we have, I guess, kind of on the lower sack, just to kind of wrap that section up so we can get on to the stuff you do. We have definitely multiple options. I know I take clients out and you take clients out. We can make that day be a indicator. We can do tight line. We always have a dry fly rod in my boat. I think you always do too. Trout spay would be something we could do. But if you want to do a full trout spay day, give Andrew a call at the 1-800 number and he can let you know which guides are like gung ho about doing that. And then we don't get to. I think if you're wanting to throw streamers on the sack, we are trying to figure that out.
That's a work in progress for us.
Not a confidence tool.
Not yet. I watched this Kelly Gallup video.
Basically, you think it's possible. I'm not convinced. Is that how we can summarize that?
Well, I think most people aren't convinced. Just this one line in his video has been bugging me for a while, which is he said, I go to rivers all over this country, and they often tell me, "Oh, we don't catch fish on streamers. You can't catch fish on streamers here." And he said, "I catch fish on streamers in those rivers all the time." And
but he's kind of Kelly Gallup. I feel
well,
like
he is Kelly. He is Kelly Gallup, and I'm not trying to make not trying to make that comparison by any means. But I always, what I told you, I gave my first year of moving here, I gave it a year. I threw a streamer every time I went out, and I got like one trout that day. Well, I know some of my friends too. Like I have one friend in particular who does swing streamers.
Yeah.
On the lower Sac, and he doesn't produce big numbers, but he does catch fish.
I was gonna say I have, however, I have swung streamers, muddlers, and small like woolly buggers, and I have had a moderate amount of success that way. And I've noticed it's always real low, super slow presentation, not like what I think when you and I are like thinking streamers, we're like ripping it, like we want to get a good,
So maybe not that.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep it. But anyway, so that's Lower Sac. So why don't you give us a quick feather? You mentioned Feather River and the Yuba.
Yeah. Let's move east to the Feather. That's the next one east of Redding. And it's a tailwater. We have a spring run of steelhead in there. They can be a lot of fun. You're steelhead fishing, so you're going to be doing some indicator, but you definitely can catch fish on streamers in there and also on dry flies. And that dry fly action is obviously like any other river, really. It's dependent on what are your conditions, right? If you get a blustery, cold, rainy day, the likelihood that you're going to get a good hatch is minimal.
Yeah.
But I've certainly had plenty of days out there where it's sunny and warm and there's prolific hatches of caddis and or mayflies, and dry fly fish the entire day for steelhead out there. That's not, like I said, every trip, but it's a possibility. I've also had years out there where streamers were very, very effective. So that's also a possibility on that river. If you want to go chase some steelhead that are spring fish, they tend to be a little bit smaller than the fall run fish. It's a mix of wild and hatchery fish. I think in the spring, those fish tend to be, I think the consensus is we see more wild fish in there in the spring. They're not giants. They're kind of in that 18 to 20, 22 inch range, but they're beautiful fish. They fight hard. So you have the opportunity, again, if conditions cooperate, to throw dry flies to streamers, which is pretty cool. Not an opportunity you necessarily get.
Yeah, awesome.
Time.
So that's the Feather.
That's the Feather.
What about that other river? The one that you love.
Moving east again. So now we're about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from Redding. And you're about an hour and 10 minutes from Sacramento, and you're about an hour from Chico. And that's the Yuba. And that is also a tailwater. Probably one of your better options as far as dry fly fishing goes in the state.
Consistent.
Pretty consistent. There's just, like most tailwaters, because the temperatures are controlled due to flows to some degree, they tend to be really nutrient rich, which supports a lot of bug life.
Bug life,
Right? So you tend to have really good diversity on tailwaters in bug life. And the Yuba is no exception. It's just, one of the unique characteristics of that river that there always seems to be the possibility that you can throw dries out there. Again, everything needs to align as far as conditions go, but we get a lot of hatches out there, kind of similar to the lower Sac, with a lot of PMDs, a lot of stoneflies, March Browns. We also have caddis. We have little yellow sallies. One of the best dry fly fishing days I ever had was on the Yuba. It was actually late in the evening. I was just fishing for myself, but throwing little yellow sallies relatively close to shore. Really, I don't know, I think maybe the longest cast I made from shore was 5 feet. And most of them were probably within that range. And every little dip, pocket, water shift had a fish in it.
Oh, wow.
And that's one of the cool things about the Yuba. It's an opportunity if you want to, right? If this is something you enjoy, of really starting to hunt fish a little bit. And part of that entails drilling down, reading water.
Yeah.
Right? Not just reading water sort of at the most basic level, right? The highest level, right? If we had tiers, but really drilling down and looking for minute changes that suggest depth changes or flow change.
And that's what you've kind of, I mean, I feel like the times I fished with you on the Yuba, you really do know that river quite well. And you like, oh, look over there. Because I think the Yuba is an interesting river, how there's obviously some really obvious changes, right? But there are some where it's like, because it's a pretty clear river.
Very clear.
And I'm like, I can't tell the difference between the 6 inches and the 1 foot. But you were like, oh no, right there. You know, there's a little pocket. It's like, oh, when you get closer, it's like, oh yeah. You know, so yeah.
And I just personally enjoy, enjoy that kind of fishing where you're.
But I can see that. I mean, it is really fun.
Where you're kind of really breaking it down a little bit more. You're really hunting. That for me is fun. I love to share that with people. Again, that's the type of fishing they like.
Yeah.
So just in general, the Yuba offers a lot of dry fly opportunities. Once it warms up a little bit, I would say kind of June, July, obviously we can throw streamers as long as it stays pretty warm and have action. And then, of course, you have your nymphing action, both indicator and tight line on the Yuba. So it offers that as well. So it's a pretty dynamic river in that sense. And we're getting into that period of time where those hatches are coming. I was out there the other day with Colin. The flows were much too high, but
we talked on the phone, and you guys started telling me the flows, and just started laughing. I was like, "Oh, you guys will be off the river in 30 minutes."
That was fairly accurate. But there was a good PMD hatch.
Oh, cool.
Which
I mean, now's the time. It should be.
Now's the time. As long as flows come down. And once they start to cooperate.
Once it starts warming up, I think all of us, in the guide world, we're all like, oh, spring PMDs. Like we start seeing those blankets of just little sailboats, little
really
tent
good
sailboats.
hatches,
Oh, man,
strong. They always kind of bring a smile to my face.
It's wonderful because on the Sac, it's like, oh man, look at all those PMDs. We better tie a caddis on. Those stupid fish.
The old adage of whatever you see rising,
do the opposite.
What they're not taking.
Yeah, it's so annoying. But at the same time too, there are some days where it's like man, just put 3 PMDs on. It's like easy, you know, as long as you have some PMD on. So that's cool. So so we've talked about spring, Northern California, tailwaters. Let's talk about freestones right now. So we have a number of freestones in our fisheries that we guide on or that we fish. We got the upper Sac.
Yep.
We have the McLeod.
Yep.
You also guide on some.
Well, McLeod's actually a tailwater.
Yeah, it is technically. That's true. Yeah. Well, so is no, I guess it isn't.
The upper Sac is actually
It technically is, but
it's one of those where it looks and sort of fishes.
I was going to say
dynamic
because even the Trinity technically, but it also fishes a lot like a freestone.
Yeah.
I always when I describe it, I'm like it's kind of like this weird. But let's talk about some of the walk and wait. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah, we'll just call it walk and wait.
Yeah, so we've got the upper Sac, the McLeod, the Pitt River. Let's talk about Hat Creek too, because I know you really love guiding there, and
I do.
You fish it quite a bit.
Yep.
I love driving past it on my way to Fall River. I'm like, hey. Sorry. So I was on the Upper Sac actually a couple weeks ago.
You were?
Yeah, I drove up there. I had to go drive up to Mount Shasta or something like that.
Yeah.
So I pulled over and was like, might as well throw a couple casts.
Why not?
Water was a little high. But so I mean, I love as long as we can get in there before the river goes crazy, because that's the challenge a little bit right now, right?
Well, I think that's also why, not just the look, but the way they treat it as far as the releases. It seems more standard than a lot of tailwaters, because every spring you get that equivalent of runoff,
big
like
push,
what runoff would be, you know, on a freestone.
Well, you get down to the lower section, it's like 4,000 or something like that.
Something crazy.
Or 3,000. And I remember one time a buddy and I drove up, did not look at any gauges. We just drove
Mistake.
We got, oh man, we're going anyway. And we fished. I think we got like 3 or 4 fish, but it was like literally on the edge. We're like fishing right at our feet, you know? So, but the walk and wade, I mean, we have some really cool bugs. Because pretty quick here, salmon flies are going to be moving in. And that's the thing that we get the most, excited about.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, it's a little early
Big
right now.
Flying hot dogs, as my friend calls them.
Totally. I mean, it is. It's like, on Hat Creek, I think I fished it last year with Andrew, or maybe it was 2 years ago now. And I just was like, I was so giddy over these stupid fish that are like, I don't know, they're like that big, jumping out of the water, dive bombing. I'm like, oh man, who doesn't like that, right?
Coming out of winter, they're hungry. They see this big hot dog floating by them.
I mean, just like stupid. They're just dumb.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't respect you, but I would like more. You're dumb.
Hat Creek is great. We've got a number of guys up there. Myself, Colin, Mike, right? Scott. They're all guide up there. But yeah, I love Hat Creek. I was just up there the other day. Had really good fishing up there. Hatches are coming 100%. One of the really cool things about Hat is it's really prolific, the bug life, and you can have literally 3, 4, 5 different bugs hatching at the same time. And you could have 2 or 3 mayfly species hatching, a couple stoneflies and a caddis. All at the same time. And it's clouds of insects. It's super fun.
It's like you don't even know where to start sometimes. Like what should I put on?
And another thing I like about Hat is it does have a little bit of variation in there, right? Some different water types. So you can indicator fish, you can tight line in certain sections of it.
Totally.
Not a lot, but there's definitely that opportunity.
But you could do it. You could do it.
Oh, I do.
Because I've noticed I think my first impression, I mean, everybody knows about the Powerhouse Riffle, right? That's where all 7,000 people go and, dork it up together, which I've done it with you. We've dorked it up. But it's kind of cool that there's actually a lot more river to fish, and so I think there's definitely a lot of options too with that too, right? I mean, you could very easily take 3 rods with you with 3 different techniques and or two, and be able to have a really fun day.
Yeah, there's also, again, for people that like to hunt fish and want that dry fly, more technical dry fly fishing, the flats there can fish incredibly well. Like literally where the water is boiling with fish rising. It's also very difficult at times, technical.
You could better have a 12-foot leader minimum.
One of my instructors in guide school from Clearwater, we were there the first night. We were dry fly fishing, and I don't think any of us caught a fish. And he walking back to the truck. He was like, "Don't worry about it. I come out here a lot and don't catch fish on the dries." It can be a challenge.
It is. It's frustrating though. I've done it a few times, and it's like there are so many fish rising.
It's incredible.
They are everywhere, and there's big fish too. Yeah. Like I'm big fish, and it's like your fly is one of 10 million. But it's like you'll even see them swim up to your fly and be like, "Ah!" Well, like inspect it.
Yeah, you'll see them give one of these, and that's the thing that makes it challenging.
So fun,
in those flats, one, the water usually is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not broken water.
Yeah.
Right, so they literally have all the time in the world to inspect that fly.
And there's a reason why you're running that's the only time I've ever used a 7X leader.
Yeah.
That? Which I was like, I don't know what's going to happen if it eats my fly.
Yeah.
Slowly. But yeah, so that's Hat Creek. Let's talk about McLeod and Upper Sac quick though. I mean, because there are windows right now. I mean, this is actually some of my favorite fishing to do up there this time of year, because there are on the Upper Sac. I mean, there are big fish that are from the lake that are moved into the system.
Yeah.
They start coming in when the water starts getting high in the wintertime. But I mean, I've had some really great days with fish that are in the 20-inch range. That you're like, oh my gosh, is that a steelhead?
That's the only size fish.
Is that a steelhead? Oh, that's the only fish. Yeah, that's true. Normally 26, but I mean, the largest fish I have seen on the Upper Sac was with a friend, and it was a 26-inch rainbow.
Oh, there's definitely
monster
big fish in there.
Yeah, I was just like, But I mean, so the flows are kind of, but we start having, the salmon flies are a thing, and that'll last until, the beginning of the summer, for sure. But there's a ton of river to fish, on the upper Sac that is virtually untouched. I mean, I almost never, I think I've guided it so many times that I've only seen like maybe 3 or 4 people in the entire times I've ever been up there. There's a lot of water you can find, or if you pull into a spot and there's a truck, hey, let's go find.
Let's go somewhere else. It's one of the things I do like about the upper Sac is just like you said, you pull into a spot, there's 2 or 3 trucks there. You're not stuck.
Totally.
Right? You have many options to go fish water that's not crowded with people. I had some excellent fishing up there with clients last spring, because there's also a really good golden stone hatch up there, which is just those fish are, I want to say they're fairly educated fish. Right, they're not the easiest fish at times to fool, but last spring just had some awesome dry fly fishing where the clients weren't necessarily very good casters. Their leader was piling up, the drift wasn't, drag free, and those fish were still coming up, and they were just so aggressive.
What's weird? It's weird because I've thought I don't think it's hard. It's my thoughts on the education of the upper Sac fish, because I don't think it gets. I think there's certain spots that get fished a lot. But there's a lot of water that's virtually untouched. Because it's, you have to actually walk 100 yards or, whatever it is. It's not very hard, but I think the fishing it's technical and not technical, meaning that if you get your flies in the right depth,
in the zone.
In the zone, it's like, oh, this is easy. But it's also the variation can be literally 2 inches. Right. It's like that bit much of difference, because I tight line a lot on the upper Sac, and I've noticed over the years that, like, once you figure out where you need to be, it's kind of like
game on.
It's dumb, but then you also know when you're not in the zone.
They give you that. They give you that feedback.
You're like, okay, and so like the joke, is always like you cannot use enough weight on the upper Sac, if you're not banging on the bottom, and then also as windows too, because the temperature changes, because I think in the winter time, man, I would not even fish before 11 in the morning, and I would be done by 2.
You're a 3-hour window. Right there.
Or where you're gonna catch more fish. But then in the high, when it's hot and warm, it's like, man, 6 a.m. start time and off by 11:30, 12. It's kind of your window, and then later on in the evening too. It just seems like the windows kind of change quite a bit on the upper Sac.
That's accurate too. I think that has to do in part to just the way the sun is working, right?
100%.
And places are coming 100%. Into shade and out of shade, right? And you can see the fishing shifting.
You really. That's why you move, right? You definitely. I know we all who guide up there. We all have we know where we want to be at what times of the day, right? So the McLeod. Oh man, the last time I fished was with you.
That was such a fun day.
We just absolutely murdered.
We were with our friend James. Shout out to James
about trout. He's always ready. He's always ready to fish. But we had in his words, it was a bloodbath.
Is that what he said?
It was bad. We caught a lot of fish. I mean, it was not. It was. You were great because you were like, I'm gonna dry. Did you dry the whole time? You did the pure way. And he and I were tight lining and
just
cheating,
nailing fish.
We had the cheat codes going.
That was great though. I mean, we switched it up and But I mean, if you want beauty and
you can't beat it.
It's tough to beat the McLeod as far as beauty goes.
It's just, and also too, it's funny. I've had. I mean, I know that McLeod can be tough. I don't want to give anybody an impression where it's like you're 50 fish every time you go. It can be tough, but I also feel like if you same thing where it's like once you dial in the technique and the setup and what you kind of have especially with tight lining. There's so many fish in that river. I mean, it is every riffle. It's like
it's productive.
It's like, and that's what's so fun about it is that you can make it's so easy to make a full day out of it because you're just kind of slowly working your way, pocket, fish. I like that part of it. And there's I mean, everybody talks about the conservancy and will we be able to get in? Do we have reservations? You know? But man, there's so much water from the dam down to that too, that you just have so many options, you know?
Yeah, there have been a number of occasions where, for different reasons, you know, well, the day we went, right, all the tags were taken.
We didn't get in.
And
there were 20 trucks at the,
you know, the fishing is, I've fished the Conservancy.
Yeah.
The fishing in the Conservancy, in my opinion, is no better than anywhere else.
100% agree.
On the river.
I actually, hot take, I think it's overrated. I do.
You know, it's beautiful in there,
totally,
right?
It's awesome.
And the fishing is good, but I don't think it's exponentially better.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of, oh, we're going to go to the McLeod and, oh, we don't have tags, so therefore we're going to fish all this crappy water.
Yeah.
Like, no, not
in fact, I think we were all like, cool.
Yeah, we just
pull over right here.
Yeah, we were like,
totally
okay,
fine. Yeah.
This looks good. Let's go here.
Yeah.
And then we had a great day. You know, not being concerned about, oh, we're not in the Conservancy. I think there's definitely some mystique that goes into that.
Everybody should do it. It's a great, if you can get in there and you have a guide day, it's awesome.
Yep.
By all means. But I think what we're kind of saying is really from the dam down,
which is a ton of water,
is good.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as, oh, you had to fish that water.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm happy to fish. I mean, literally, you know, park at the top and work your way down. You do the big walk of shame down, which is way easier on the walk of shame on the way up. Because walking up in the afternoon on a hot day, dude.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm like, we need to get motorcycles, but or electric bikes, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just the water, the whole thing down is good. So we've got Hat Creek, you know, McLeod, Upper Sac, just be 3 we could talk about. But spring fishing, it's on. There's a lot of great water, and I think I
think another one that we haven't mentioned is North Fork Feather. I think.
Oh yeah.
We've got that, and I've spent a little bit of time out there. North Fork Feather is an interesting piece of water.
Yeah. That's where Mike Peace
exactly
right? One of our guides. Yeah.
Our
great
guy Mike Peace out there guides that, and it's different from any of the other.
It really is
that we've mentioned because it's more gorgy.
Yeah,
and there's big boulders and very granite.
It actually has kind of a little bit of everything because like it is definitely like it's got those longer slow slicks. Then it's got like pocket water. Yeah, and then it's got deeper. Yeah, it really is. And I will say I can verify. You know, there's a lot of the normal trout size, you know, between, 8 to 14 inches. I hooked one rainbow that was, 18 plus. I was using a stupid 4-weight. It just
whose fault was that?
It was with they said bring a 4-weight or whatever, 5, maybe it was 5, I don't know. But I got spooled pretty good on a good fish. And broke my, I think I was running 5X, whatever, broke off. And then I had one, I think it was a brown trout. There are browns in there. I had a brown smoke, a rainbow I was fighting.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it just hit it, and then it was gone. And I was like, what? You know, like, oh my gosh. So then tied on a big rapid strip. come back. But but it was, 22, 24 inch. I mean, it was a big fish. So yeah, it's super great. In fact, we have some videos on our YouTube channel that you can see some of that fishery from Mike. So Stillwater though, we got 2 you and I can talk about. Would you like to talk about the first one that I think you want to talk about? What is our resident trout? You want to fish a lake? What do you got?
Why do you do this to me?
I want you to talk about it. Tell the good folks listening.
I don't know why he does this.
Ladies and gentlemen, talk about your...
So we have Bomb Lake.
Yeah, Bomb Lake.
Which is a Stillwater.
There are wild brown trout in there.
There are wild fish in there. It's also stocked.
Yep.
And it's up near Hat Creek.
Yeah.
Right? So if you wanted to have, 2 days, that's also a possibility to do one day on like Hat and one day on Bomb Lake.
And Bomb Lake, what's cool, you can use a lot of techniques.
Yeah, you can. Last year I guided a day out there with Colin, and
I heard you guys caught an excessive amount of fish.
We did. We caught a lot of fish. I think the part that speaks to what you were mentioning about different techniques is one of the guys in my boat. I knew they had been there the day before on their own, and they were indicator fishing and catching fish. And I just said, "Hey, you like to throw streamers?" And he said, "Yeah, I love to." And so we just switched over, and he did as well with his streamer rod as he was nymphing, and he just preferred to do that the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But I know...
Sounds like a decent man.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah.
Smart.
So he had a blast doing that. I know Colin was throwing dries and indicator.
Yeah.
There was a pretty good hatch most of the day.
Yeah.
So you can have dry fly activity, you can nymph, you can pull streamers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brown trout in there. So if that's something on your bucket list, if you haven't caught a brown trout, that's a good place to go find one.
Yeah. Colin and I went with a buddy of ours, and we just ripped second half of the day. We literally just were ripping the rabbit straight, because we caught a bunch of fish, and we're like, let's just try to go after
something different.
Yeah. So Bomb Lake is up Bear Hat Creek, totally an option. I mean, that's actually one of the places that you can fish it any day of the year because of or based off of weather, I should say. You don't have to worry about it getting blown out.
Right.
And it's kind of cool too because it is has similar water to like what I would say like Fall River a bit because it's got some of that slow current. It's got just enough current to where you actually are getting a drift, even though it's a lake.
It's a good place, I think, especially for folks that might be a little bit newer, right? And
totally,
you want a high probability of a lot of shot at fish, right? So because it's stopped.
Also great for like if you have a partner or a spouse that maybe hasn't fly fished before or kids.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's well suited in that sense for those type of anglers as well. It doesn't. I mean, we take all kinds of skill level there, right? Yeah. But I do think it's well suited to those folks because there's a good chance they're going to have a shot at numerous fish.
Plenty of action.
Yeah. And you're not on a river that's moving really fast. Yeah. Right? Where, they're going to have to mend a lot more. Yeah. The bobber downs are probably going to be faster. Yeah. That might be a little bit more.
It's a great, I think that's, and I guess we'll wrap up with the final Stillwater option right now. That's perfect for exactly what you're talking about. Lake Shasta bass, spotted bass right now. Yep. We went out a couple weeks ago when it was just or actually maybe it was a month ago, but it was just starting to get started. Yeah. So slower. We only hooked 40. I don't think I've gone out. I've gone out probably 5 or 6 times so far in the last month or so, and it's been pretty ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, nonstop action. Yeah, and those bass pull hard.
I really like bass. Yeah, I like fishing for bass. I always have since I was a kid.
I know I'm starting to actually really like them, and I'm like, oh man.
They're just a cool fish. They fight hard, and you're on the water.
They are.
I think this time of year too, as many people probably know, we're having those fluctuations in our rivers, right? That can kind of,
river might be blown out.
Blown out, right? But I know myself, before I was guiding too, the spring would come and I would just, I was so ready to get out. Yeah. I just wanted to be on the water. I wanted to catch some fish. Yeah. And so, this is a great way to get out on the water and kind of scratch that itch.
It is not. It can be pretty nonstop action. They've moved into the shallows. We're using the float and fly method. Yep. You can also throw streamers too. Been doing that, throwing like crayfish patterns up, and kind of walking it down. Nice. That's been productive. I've had a couple eats on poppers, topwater. That's not
that's fun.
Yeah, early morning. Yeah, super fun. But man, I mean, if you want to hook a lot of fish, so I think it really is like if you have a partner, spouse that you want to I want to get them involved in fly fishing, that's a great way to do it. And then also kids. I mean, it is, and I have some setups where the lines cast really well. My 10-year-old is now did Soren go with us when we went?
No, we went shad fishing with Soren, but
okay. So Mike, he's all about like, can we go bass fishing? Like he's like, I want to catch 100, Well, that's kind of our Northern California, what's going on spring. We've got tailwater fishing. We've got some great walk and wade options. We have some still waters that would be good. And I'd say these options we've talked about, we've kind of covered it up until about middle of June. And we'll talk about other options soon for the summer. But yeah, shad is just around the corner. I actually want to say, May, last year we were out May, I think, when we first went out and started catching them. And So anything else you want to say?
No, thanks everybody for watching and checking in with us. And I want to encourage people to, if you have questions, if you want to hear us talk about something, let us know.
Yeah, leave a comment, but also give us a call at Confluence Outfitters, and Andrew can answer any of your questions about what would be a good fit for the fishing. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so thanks for listening.
All right.